All right, Chris, you're not going to do any stupid dad jokes at the beginning this time? Nothing?
No, I have other stupid jokes I need to do at the beginning.
Okay. Then I'll just get us going then. We're the Grumpy Dungeon Masters. I'm Jay. I'm joined by Christopher, Christian, and Dan. Say hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
And this week we have a couple of guests with us. We are joined with Heidi and Erik Gygax Garland. That is a mouthful, by the way.
Hey, guys. You can just call me Heidi. Hi.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
So, thanks for joining us on our podcast where we talk about being dungeon masters and all of the stuff that entails. So, Chris, go ahead and do your stupid jokes.
So, Heidi, we had the opportunity of meeting at Gary Con, and Erik. We met both of you at the same time. You ran a game for us. Me and Dan had a great time. Thank you for not murdering us horribly.
Only the people that deserved it got murdered horribly and had to twiddle their thumbs the last hour.
I need to hear this story.
DMs don't murder people.
They murdered themselves. They definitely did. Like, the writing was on the wall. The thief refused to look at the door. The dwarf's like, but I'm real greedy, though, and I'm going to try to open it, and suddenly spear traps. It was like 8 spear traps for like level 4. I was like, everyone's like looking at me as a cleric. I'm like, we're level 4. I don't know what you're asking me here. He's dead. Like, he has been murdered or killed by a number of spears. Like, I mean, go recover his body if you want to, but that's it.
So, Heidi, when we had Luke on here, there was a very big pressing question that I had to ask him first and foremost, and I have to ask you this as well. How much can you bench press?
but the answer is yes. I can bench press Luke.
Excellent. That's a good answer.
Yeah, perfect answer.
Yeah, so like when we first met him, like I said, it was just this beard and thing, and I'd asked him to come on. I was like, "Oh yeah, we definitely just ask you just D&D questions the entire time," and I threw him that question right at the start. But it was definitely it was definitely. By the way, you guys were my first edition or second. It was first edition, right? Yeah, first edition game that I've ever played. I never played before. I started in 4th and played 5th, so getting a chance to experience first edition Dungeons and Dragons was quite a treat for me, and I really did enjoy it. And
I had to explain Thacker to this guy.
I still don't understand. I don't understand how
he was writing down a chart on his character sheet while you guys were trying to explain what the module was.
Well, see, maybe
I did for all my players back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I a lot of people say how they struggle with, all the different parts of the edition. I just did it the easy way, as did Luke when he began, because we just played with my dad, and we didn't have to read anything. We just did it organically. He just DM'd and we rolled with it, and that was first. That was AD&D in those days. Elisa and Ernie, my older sister and older brother, played OD&D originally. They were the first play testers, and but at that time I was too young, as was Luke, because Luke was 4 years old, and I was that would make me like 0. No, I'm just kidding. I'm a couple years older than Luke, but we were too young, but when we would play with my dad, it was AD&D, and it was just organic, and so that feels natural to me. And then I was away from all of everything for so long, with everything that happened with TSR and in my personal life, and I left and was living in Hawaii for 30 years. I started playing again. Unfortunately, it took, I played a little bit here and there, but then when my dad passed and Gary Con started, that's when I really picked it up again. And that's when I, in recent years, became familiar with 5e, because, some people that were playing 5e, and I learned it then. So that's kind of why I only go from pretty much AD&D and 5e. And, we've done an adventure for OD&D as well.
Yeah.
So.
And the differences between like first edition and OD&D it's not huge. Like the rules set's very similar. It's just the character classes tend to be a lot different. So.
Yeah, so I have to look things up too because I'm just used to, the way I was taught to play is you just kind of, I mean, of course you have your stats and everything, you have those there, but of course, as a player, we didn't really have to worry about it. You just roll and go with it. And I only started DMing when Gary Con came around, and I was asked to, and I was like, oh no, I don't know how to do that. I've only ever been a player, because when your dad is Gary Gygax, you don't.
They just expect it.
Yeah.
You don't, right, and you don't, and you play with him. You're not the DM,
Right.
So he was the ultimate storyteller, really, in my world anyway.
So when we were out there playing the game, it was you and Eric both DMing at the same time, and I've never actually had a couple DM for me. I thought what you two did was wonderful. When did you and Eric meet, and how did you guys start, DMing together?
Oh, that's very personal. No. No.
Well, that reminds me of a bad joke. You guys like bad dad jokes.
Oh yeah.
Yes, we do.
How do you get a D&D player to go out with you?
How?
You ask them for a D8.
I love it.
Excellent.
That's not what happened. Heidi and I think we met the first time in 2015. Somebody I was at Gary Con with, and they said, "Hey, look over there. There's those are Gary Gygax's daughters." And so I went over and got a picture, and they were all very nice. And then I think we may have chatted just a moment, and then the next year we talked a little more, and then the next year we talked a little more, and we became friends on Facebook, Heidi and I, and we talked about dogs and cats and kids and work, and she's in Hawaii, and
yeah, I lived in Hawaii, and he lived in Kentucky.
But I thought she was very, very nice, but it never, and so we over years we just sort of gradually became friends, and then at one point we decided we were going to go out to lunch, and then we went out to lunch again, and I realized that the most wonderful person in the world was sitting across from me. And
Aw.
I know, right?
And by that time, 2020 COVID, when with COVID and everything, and I moved with my girls back to Lake Geneva. I had the house here, and he would come up and visit, and we started dating, and it was kind of surreal because I was just planning on being single forever, and I had been in we both had kind of big careers. He's a chief information officer for a hospital group, and I was general merchandising manager for a jewelry company with 60 stores, and I was in charge of all that for many years. And that kind of just stopped for me when I moved here, and with everything. And then we started dating, and we kind of started out with just like, hey, let's run some games together at GaryCon, and let's write some stuff. And Eric can kind of tell it from there because he started.
Well, I mean, yeah. So you had been co-running some games at GaryCon prior to
with
me,
a couple other people,
right?
Yeah.
And but we were dating. I think maybe we were engaged. We were talking about, I don't remember, but at that point it was, hey, let's run a game together at GaryCon. So we started talking about it and sort of framing it out. And then I was in a really boring meeting at work. And so I was using some Facebook art, and I threw together an old like a mock-up of a module cover, and said "happily ever after," and did a little emoji of Heidi fighting off a monster and saving me. I was hanging on a rope, and I threw it together because that's what I got paid to do, was sit in meetings and play with my phone. And
yeah, we all live that life except for Jay.
Yeah, except for me.
And we so we put it out on the internet on Facebook, just hey, this is funny, and the response was really good. And so the first thing I learned the way my life was going to be is it was not going to be titled "Happily Ever After." It was going to be titled "Till Death Do We Part."
So back to this part,
yeah,
I changed that right away.
Yeah, and I said yes to you. And so then we kind of wrote it, and it was going to be a wedding gift, and then we invested in some art and hired Steve Sullivan. He did a magnificent little map for us, and and it just sort of snowballed. And we said, well, we have to kickstart this because at this point it's an investment. And she's so much fun to work with. The creative was fun. The girls get involved, and we're reading things out loud, and they'll be talking, and they'll throw out little ideas, and we're like, oh, you got to use that.
Yeah, because they were 7 and 8 at the time, and they were giving us some crazy. We talk about things, and instead of a documentary that we'd be talking about something, they're like the documentary. Yeah, so we had to put a tree in called the documentary, and
or the documentary.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, see, that might.
Yep.
I'll have to run it.
To be quite honest, I mean, kids of that age, like between like 5 and 8, have like the best ideas that an adult would just never think of. There was a game that I was running a couple of months ago, and it was some holiday, and I was there with my niece. She's 4, and she whispered to me that she was afraid of a monster. I'm like, "What's the monster?" And she described it. I'm like, "Okay, what do you call it?" And she called it the crocoroach because it was the combination of a crocodile and a roach.
Oh,
And I'm like,
wow.
that sounds terrifying because it can fly, it has a carapace, and it has the ferocity of a crocodile. I'm terrified of this thing. So of course I picked up Pirate Borg at Gary Con, and I was like, they're exploring a cave and it's swampy. There's got to be a crocoroach in this thing on the ceiling when they go in there. That immediately came and jumped on them. But like, yeah, kids have the best ideas. I was looking at some of the other uh, things that was in y'all's modules. I assume came from the girls, like the apocalypse. I'm guessing the septipus maybe too. Some of the other things that you guys had in there were just like kids have great ideas.
Yeah,
definitely the apocalypse.
Yeah. And their names, if you notice their names, that's their Japanese middle names, because the girl. Yeah. So they're my adopted granddaughters, and they are half Japanese, so they have their, in Hawaii it's very customary to give them the Japanese middle names.
Okay.
So, yep. But yep. So they're Amelie Yomiko and Zoe Nozomi. So that was Yumiko and Nozomi.
That's very cool.
So I have a question. You just talked a little bit about gaming with your dad, and that you started D&D and you played with Luke. How old were you in your first game? Because I'm actually trying to think about when I should start trying to run a game for my 6-year-old, and I'm guessing now is a little too young. I mean, we try to watch.
No, I don't. Well, it depends. If your 6-year-old is interested, you can run a game now. I know Luke was younger. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember my first game. I always remember being around gaming, but I have to say my dad, because my mom was not interested in gaming, and most of the gamers back in the 70s were male. War gamers, because he came from the wargaming community, right? And it's
Right.
So he really didn't. And Lisa, even though Lisa play tested, my sister who's 3 years older than I am, and she played, but it didn't really click with her. She was more, she just wanted to do girl things, and wasn't that interested. So I wasn't really approached too much to game, but I was around it all the time. So I'm trying to remember, but I know for sure when I was I remember playing around the age of 10, 11, 12, but earlier than that. But I know Luke, who was the youngest of the 5 kids but that my mom and dad had, was always around my dad, because my dad worked from home since he was born. When I was a kid, my dad worked in Chicago and would take the train and go. He was an insurance underwriter, and he would take the train from Lake Geneva to Chicago and back and forth. But when my mom was about to have Luke, he lost his job in Chicago, and he bought. He tried going to work, finding a job. He had 4 kids plus another one on the way any minute, and needed work. And he tried working in a factory at I think it was like a steel working plant or something, and it lasted for a day. He came home, I remember he was all bruised, and he did some things, and he ended up buying some shoe repair equipment from somebody who was closing up shop in town, and he set it up in our basement, and we opened a shoe repair shop in our house. So he was home. So by the time Luke was born, my dad worked at home and was with him constantly. So Luke was kind of like, would always be around Dad. And I think he started, they would bounce ideas off each other, and Luke was playing with him, I know, from probably the age of 4 or 5.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Little
That's
kid.
Okay.
And he was helping give ideas, and my dad even gave him credit, co-author credit from when he was just a really tiny kid. Yeah.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah. So, yeah, and I have, there's a cool picture. I don't even, I'll have to dig it up and look at it, but I know from down in the basement with my dad with his, the striped apron on, doing shoe repair, and Luke he made my brother like a little mini apron, and they were both standing there doing shoe repair. It was very cute. And then, of course, my dad did that during the day, and then he would stay up writing at night, and somehow, I don't know how he fit it all in, really, because I don't have that kind of energy. But, of course, he was younger than me. I'm already old. I don't have any energy left.
Yeah, and he had 5 of them. We only have 2, and we're
Well,
always tired.
Yeah. My
I don't
mom.
have any. I don't have
my
any
mom-
kids, and I'm always tired.
Yeah, my mom was a powerhouse.
So I
Yeah.
listened to the StoryCorps that you and Eric did a couple of years ago, and you told a
Oh.
story about that. I think Eric prompted you because you guys had been running a game, and somebody was going to die, and everyone thought you were being cruel for letting the person die, and you told a story about Luke and you playing through Tomb of Horrors. Could you relay what happened to old poor Otis to the guys? Because I don't think they've heard that.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So somebody's heard the StoryCorps. Wow. Yeah. So this was we were playing. This is one of like our organic games that we were playing, and I had my character Murphles, which was my half elf fighter thief, and he had Otis, and Luke played, like some more often. He had built up. He was trying to think. Okay, how old would I have been? So he was, gosh, he would have only been about 8 years old at this time.
Mm-hmm.
He had built up Otis to be, he was either 8 or 9, and he built up Otis to be a 10th level character. And this is AD&D. He worked hard. He'd been playing a lot. Like I said, he was playing for a lot of these. And we were going through this, and I wish I could remember the exact scenario more, but we were definitely going through all the traps and scenarios and checking for things, and something happened where Otis fell into a pit. It was 100-foot pit.
Oh
And
no!
yeah, and there was no going back. There was nothing we could do. And he cried, Luke cried, and he begged, and he did something, he's like, nope,
Yeah, he's 8. Yeah.
right. He did everything. And my dad did not go back on it. The character, he was gone. There was nothing he could do. And my dad wasn't mean. Luke was pretty spoiled. But he was true to the game. He's like, no, you made the wrong decision. You did something wrong. These are the consequences. And there's no coming back. There's no rope long enough. There's no, there's no regeneration. So and I just remember it was pretty sad.
Aw.
But he made his next. That's probably when he started playing Melf or something.
Yeah. So,
So,
good things come out of that because everyone knows Melf.
right,
Yep.
right.
I have cast his acid arrow many a times.
And many
Right.
additions.
So yeah, it was funny. And then I would play, and my little sister Cindy played once in a while with with us as well. This is when we lived in Clinton. So probably from like 1979 to around 82, in that time period. So yeah, so Luke probably would have been around 9 years old. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, having heard that story, I was thinking because I've been thinking about running something for my son for a while. some of his friends. And there's some more, I guess, child friendly games than D&D. There's a number of different games that are just don't include things like death. It's like there's one called No Thank You Evil, which is just very cute. And I
Yeah, our
feel like
girls
maybe
have
one
that
of
one.
those might be better
It
to
depends
start
on-
off with, because I mean, he understands that death is a thing, and like I don't think, like, hearing the story about Luke crying at 8 because his character that he's worked so hard on died. Like, man, I don't know if I can handle that.
Yeah, well, our girls they played No Thank You Evil. I think that was, gosh, I think they played that way back in like 2021. We haven't played that as much because we've had them play with us, but I was gonna say we were
Amelie ran it for us one night,
yeah,
and then which was good for her
Right.
to run the game, and then I think
and she's 11 now, but this was probably 2 years ago, so she
Yeah.
probably ran it for us when she was 9. She's coming up on the preteen thing is hitting her really hard. We're trying to get her to run. She even has a friend who's really into D&D, and it's gonna come and I was like, come on, you should start running. There's a teen group at the library. She's like, I am not a teen. I am not yet a teen.
Adorable.
Yeah, right. So
hard to convince.
but
Yeah.
we did run. I don't remember the age of his son, but we ran a game. This was a few years ago at Gary Con, and we ran a game that was kid friendly. And we said, if there's just anybody 13 or under, please have a parent along and play. And so we were in one of the boardrooms, like we were when we played with you. And I didn't know who the people were, but I found out later. That was before we even started. That was what's his name, Stashwick.
Yeah, Todd Stashwick.
Todd Stashwick came in and said, "Hey, you guys, what are you doing?" And he talked to us, and we gave him a copy of our
It was Till Death Do Us Part.
Till Death Do Us Part, and and then he came back and had to sign it after he looked at it, which was really cool. And then, a few minutes later, we're running the game, and there was a little boy who was with his dad, and they were playing. And I found out later it's Chris Pronowski, Titmouse Studios, and his son. And they were, I don't know if you know Titmouse Studios.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I had no idea who they were. And, we had candy for the kids. And he's like, do you have anything that's not chocolate? I'm allergic. I'm like, oh, no, I'm sorry. So, but he played and Until Death Do Us Part, he did really well, except the one point where he took the goblin, he picked up the goblin that was injured.
How old was he?
I don't even.
Yeah.
He was pretty young, and he shielded himself going through this trap area by
Pushing the goblin ahead of him.
Yeah, pushing the goblin ahead of him to take all the arrows and running across the trap. It was crazy. He did awesome. He actually, got past the big bad for them. This kid, it was pretty amazing, and it was a lot of laughs and a lot of fun. And then what was a big thrill was later. And I didn't know anything about who he was or really his dad until after. And then his father, Chris, sent a video to me later when they went back home to California. They had built it. He has a game room, and he had built it in terrain. Our whole Till Death Do Us Part, like the dungeon, the island, and the whole adventure, and built it. And he was going to run it for his friends. And they had built
That's very cool.
Yeah, the harbor,
awesome.
the Gaxland Minatare, all the things with the spider. It was like, wow, this is so awesome. And he sent a video, and he was very excited because he was going to DM it for his friends. And that was such a huge, I mean, that I felt like really proud at that moment that kid was impacted so much that he was going to share that adventure with his buddies,
Yeah,
awesome.
all that work that you put into it, and then somebody's taking it and just going with it and adding to it. I love it.
Yeah.
So you guys have talked about like two of the big adventures. Like of all the ones that you have written, which ones are your favorite and why? Really,
this is hard because
they're all your favorite, and they're all the best.
No, because like, when you're working on them, you put so much into them. And oh my goodness.
And then you have to edit it back out. We write these And then it's like at our page count, we need 36 pages, so we got to cut 8 pages out. And, wow.
Well, sometimes when you're writing, you're like, this isn't going to work. We either have to do 4 more pages or take 2 out. Uh-oh. I got it. Oh, it's the cat. Okay. Yeah. All right. Sorry. No. There was, I forgot to tell Eric when a squirrel got in the house. We have to deal with that when we get off the phone.
Oh, did you see it again?
No, the girls did.
Oh my.
We have a
Is
dog
the cat
door.
working on that?
The cat probably brought it in, and that might be what.
Actually, it just went by.
Oh, it just went by. So if you hear dogs scurrying, I'm so sorry. We have 2 dogs and a cat, and the cat.
And I'm the one who has to catch the rodents. So it's not...
I don't want it to get hurt anyway. Kill the players, not the squirrel.
Yeah.
Okay. Not the players, the characters, of course.
Right.
No, you kill the players. Kill the players for sure.
Let's make a distinction. Yeah. So which one is our favorite? There's things that we're expanding right now, which are really cool. We have some great ideas. There's some really fun things in the second project that we kickstarted. The first project we actually did 2 because we did the GG1 and GG1E. But the next one we did, Tomb of the Dundle Chief, it was kind of beefy because we have 8 different dungeons inside the adventure. So, so there's an overland adventure first before you find where you're going. And we had a lot of fun with some of those things. And it's always fun to put in some of the little Easter eggs that we get in there.
Yeah.
Are we going to have to move to another area because Thor is tracking?
You mean out of Wisconsin? Or
No.
I'll get it.
There's a squirrel in the house. We got to move.
All right, we're done here.
I love how out of context, you're just like, okay, Thor's shown up. We have to move out of the state. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, of course, Thor. We have Thor and Hades in the room with us.
No.
Yes.
Crossing the street here.
You definitely need to move out of the state then.
Yeah.
That's going to be a crater at the end.
Yeah, that's gonna be a problem.
That is Thor's Fall. Another progress and story in progress.
Thor's Fall is an area in the Dundle, which is in the world that we've been writing in. We have an area called Thor's Fall because we have to put, Thor.
Yeah, you got to put your animals in there. Absolutely.
Absolutely, yes. We don't have Hades in there because we didn't have Hades yet, so he has to go into our next thing. So Hades is 1 and Thor is 4.
Thor is half Great Pyrenees and half Meth Lab. And,
yeah.
He's 130 pounds of just all over the place. And
I too have 130 plus pound Great Pyrenees, and he will not stop digging in my garden.
Oh yes.
I just put it all back together. I let him out right before we got on the podcast, and he just dug a big asshole and laid down in it, so we could just watch the cars go by again.
Did you just call your dog a big asshole?
No.
We're
Thanks, Dad.
It looks like possibly the squirrel has tried to take refuge in the hidden cat tree area, and Thor is trying to get in there right now. Anyway, we will
Thor's trying to help.
He is.
Still stuck on the fact that you have what I heard was you have a dog that's half Great Pyrenees, half Meth Lab.
Okay.
That's Black Lab, Meth Lab,
Yeah, that's what I heard. That's what I heard too, Chris. It's not just you.
Okay, good. Because that is one heck of a dog. Then
I was.
Yeah,
I live in Alabama.
14-pound teddy bear, which is like Shih Tzu, Poodle, and Bichon Frise. But he's got no attitude.
Yeah, you have both ends of the spectrum for dogs. Wow.
Yes, I know. It's and then of course we have Mittens, our tuxedo cat. He's pretty fun.
Oh, Mittens.
Yes.
Everyone loves a Mittens.
Yes. The girl's named Mittens, or they used to say Mittens, right? Wait, they just came up here. How do you say Mittens? they either say mittens or mittens. It depends. And they say mittens. I'm like, oh, what? Are we in England now? And they say mittens.
Well, mittens.
Yes.
Adorable.
So yeah, we found her. She was she was a rescue crossing a freeway as a tiny kitten in Hawaii. We brought her with us.
Aw.
Hawaii kitty.
That's a well-traveled cat.
Yes.
So,
It used to be all sun. Now there's snow everywhere. Oh my god.
So at Gary Con, when we were signing up for games and everything, I think all of us tried to get into your game, but you know how getting into games at Gary Con can be, it's difficult timing wise.
I've never had a problem. No.
Well, yeah.
Or why?
Yeah, lucky you. I mean, this was our first Gary Con, and I think we all had a blast. We plan to keep coming back every year. But so if I remember correctly, weren't you supposed to be running a module? Was it the Hamlet of Omelette?
Yes.
Yes. That's what we signed up for.
Yeah, that's what we were all trying to get into.
And we ended up running. Encounter at Goblin Gulch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
is there
part of the same? Yes. So we are actually still working on Hamlet of Omelette. We have this problem where we keep jumping forth with new ideas and leaving things partially done, and then
all
also
great writers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You, George R. R. Martin.
And me, and you, and everybody
we have
else.
these inconveniences called, children and animals and households. But no, we definitely have Hamlet of Omelette that we are working on. There are like a lot of maps done. There's story outline. And where are we? Are we running Hamlet of Omelette? I'm trying to think, because we have several that are written well enough for us to run now, but they're not written well enough for us to publish.
Yep.
And so Encounter at Goblin Gulch is part of the same story as Hamlet of Omelette, so we kind of went there because it's earlier in the story. And then we're doing at EdCon, which is coming up next month, we are running more a tournament that actually Chris Clark has written up that's in that sort of that same world, and that is for the
Eggstream Spiders.
Oh yes, Eggstream Spiders, and that's and Chris Clark is putting it together. But we're doing because of course my brother Ernie was going to be one of our special guests again, but he obviously cannot make it anymore, and so we're doing the Ernie Gygax memorial tournament. So memorial challenge, and so we're running that. So that's a lot of fun. In fact, that reminds me, I'm supposed to be working on. I'm going to edit that and get that published, for Chris Clark. So yes, we were supposed to get running through the Hamlet of Omelette, and that is,
and we will,
we will have that.
Me and Jay will definitely both be there next year for Gary Con. We're not going to be able to make it the Egg Con, but we'll definitely be for Gary Con. So if you're running the Hamlet of Omelette, I'm signing up again.
Okay. Okay. And maybe you can make it to EggCon 3 because we are we're very, very small. And I know Gary Con is fantastic. It's really big. And then you come in the summer here, and of course it's just really nice in Lake Geneva in the summer. But we're much smaller, but we have an amazing list of special guests that are coming. So
yeah, I was going to ask about that. Like, what you have EggCon going, and we'll definitely dive more into that. So, what's it like having to go participate in such a huge con and then run your own? Because I ran just like a free RPG day yesterday, my local gaming store, and that killed me. So how are you going to run a con? Like, that just blows my mind. Like, that's got to be a heck of a thing.
You're asking why things aren't getting done on time besides the whole, family thing and animals. We decided, it's like, we're
It was
sitting
it was a
around
it was the
February.
last day. It was a late night in February last year.
Yeah, late February.
You know what we should do?
He probably drank wine or something, silly, and and said, there's no game convention during the summer in this area, and my dad's birthday is July 27th, and we should do. And they've just proclaimed that Gary Gygax Day in Lake Geneva, and we should do a convention to honor him. And so we said, yeah, we can pull that off. We went around and it's like summer. Zoe. Okay, thank you, Zoe. And so we went around looking for, venues, and everything is totally booked up. When you go that time, there are weddings, and this is a tourist area, a big tourist area. So, not so much in March. I mean, it still is, but summertime, everything's booked. So we went to American Legion Hall. We got that. We worked with one of the small local hotels. So between the two venues, we found some space. We talked to some people. They'd be like, "Yeah, we'd be glad to come and play and hang out," and did it out of the kindness of their hearts and their friendship, people that I've known from TSR and such. And we just kind of pulled it off. Just really small. The first year was like 145 people, and just had like I swear it was like 5 vendors. It was very small, and but we sold out. The tickets that we had available sold out like within the first couple of weeks. So, and it was just inexpensive, and so we said, yeah, we're definitely doing. So now we're doing. We tried to go to like the Grand or the Abbey or some of these hotels around here. And in summertime, it's just we can't do it. They have huge prices because they can fill each one of those ballrooms with weddings and parties and things every.
Right. Yeah.
So we're going to 2 of the more boutique hotel kind of places that they do some of those things, but they don't have food and beverage minimums. And so we're paying higher for the rooms, but we don't have food and beverage minimums. So the Cove of Lake Geneva and Harbor Shores on Geneva Lake, which they're adjoining hotels, and they both have, it's lake views. They're both right on Center Street, back to back, connected by the parking lot. And we're going to be probably about 400 is all. If we have space for more if we grow. I mean, there's another little bit. It's
to be honest,
next year up to 600 people, maybe.
I think that's a good number of people for
Yeah.
for a convention. Like those of us that went to GaryCon this year, we've been used to DragonCon down in Atlanta.
Oh gosh, yeah.
For years, and when I first started going when I was in high school, it was maybe 10,000 people, which seemed like a lot, but it was spread out over like 4 or 5 hotels, connected by bridges, and there was a massive dealers hall and everything like that, and there was still lots of gaming. I show up like maybe every other year, maybe a day to just meet some people that I know there and game for a day and kind of ignore most of everything else because it's just a nonstop party of 80,000 people.
Yeah.
And it is overwhelming to me now. Like maybe if I was still in my 20s, I would be into it.
Right.
But then I went to Gen Con maybe the first time 10 years ago, and it's big, but it's still only half the size of Dragon Con, but it's much more gaming oriented. I really enjoyed that. Then, my brother finally convinced me to go to GaryCon. He's like, "No, you need to go to this just because it is completely gaming focused. It's not it has all the people who basically wrote all the stuff from our childhood there that are if they're still alive, they're there." And I'm like, okay, he finally convinced me by paying for me to get a gold pass to GaryCon. I'm like, fine, I'll get a ticket, we'll go. And I'm glad I did because it was a great time, and everybody was so nice. If you ever even actually ran into a creator or writer or celebrity at DragonCon, they don't have the time of day for you, let alone time to actually talk to you about any of their stuff that you're a fan of. I easily got autographs from a half dozen of my favorite artists and writers, and got to talk to them for like 5 minutes, and it was awesome and meet plenty of people. So like the fact that you guys are starting a con that 3 years ago that only had 145 people, then 400, then
That was
600.
last year.
Yeah.
This
I
is
mean
the
that's
second.
awesome.
Yeah.
I mean
Yeah.
that's awesome.
So just some of our, you won't know some of these people probably, but I've got them listed. But just okay. So I'll just start. We have them alphabetically listed because that's the only way I can remember them because with a small. But Sonia Eckwright used to game. She started gaming when Ernie had the Dungeon Hobby Shop there, and she is now the in charge of the Lake Museum.
We actually do know her. She gives
Okay.
a private tour of the
Great.
exhibit at the
Isn't
museum.
she awesome?
She's wonderful.
Yeah, she's
We love
great.
Sonia.
Yeah,
And
she was
then
fantastic.
artist Chris Arneson, he's done work for us. He actually did the logo stuff for us. He does a lot of D&D stuff. Heather Ashcraft,
Mhm.
who is a female gamer. We've got Ben and Bill Barsh, father and son. Jeff Butler was a TSR artist.
Mhm.
Mike Carr, the only person that's been to every single Gen Con. He's Fight in the Skies.
We know
Dawn
he is.
Patrol. Yep. Christopher Clark. Dave Conant. I worked with I worked with a lot of these guys, but I remember Dave Conant from the DSR days when I used to work there. He was the IT guy, but he's very involved with he's on the staff of Gary Con as well, but he also is part of Tom Wom Games. So Tom Wom is also one of our guests.
Mhm.
Chuck Cumbo, who is part of Cholord Games. Dale Donovan, formerly with TSR, game creator. Jeff Easley, artist, of course. Alan Hammett, coming up to visit. Harold Johnson, he was there last year as well, as was Jeff Easley and Chris Clark. Ron Meischker from Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo. And
That's got to be a typo. We couldn't have been.
Yes. Frank Menser.
Oh yeah.
Yep, Frank Menser will be there. Chet Minton, artist, and he's done a lot of artwork with us and for us. He's a very excellent artist. Mike Menard, early gamer, did a lot of the play testing in the old days, and very involved with more of the old school stuff, the chainmail, the sand table stuff. And he's coming. Authors T.R. Nickel and Jerry Red Shepherd. Victoria Perrin, Jeff Perrin's daughter, from.
Yeah, we know
Yep.
Jeff. We know who Jeff Perrin is.
Okay, so Victoria will be there. The Dwarvenaut, Stefan Pokorny. Dwarven Forge.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah. Now we know.
Stefan's going to be there. He's hosting a rock party on Saturday night. We've just got a venue for him since we can't do it at the hotel because we don't have the whole hotel like he does when he's at the Grand. But he's coming because he's like, I don't know if I can make it. It's like, it's just a few days before Gen Con. So he's like, oh, yeah, we could just go straight from there down to Gen Con. I'm like, perfect.
Oh, man. That sounds like Dave. Yeah, that sounds like Dave Haddon doing that.
Yeah. Bill Sylvie, who is, he has a show called The Dungeon Delver and the Delver's Dungeon. So he's very much old school. Bill, does the OSR. He's done some conversions for us with things. Paul Stormberg, he does a lot of online auctions.
He gave us a tour of your old house.
Okay, yep. Paul's going to be there, and he's doing his Legends of Wargaming. Stephen Sullivan, author, former friend, still a friend of mine, but I've known him since, he was like basically, a kid just a couple years older than me when he came to work at TSR.
Mm-hmm.
Jeffrey Talanian is coming. Jeff Talanian.
Astonishing Swordsman Booker's Hyperborea.
Yes, Hyperborea.
Yeah,
okay.
I know that.
And he did writing with my dad, and he's excited to be coming and staying at the Cove because he said when he and his wife Erica first came to meet my dad when they were, just talking about starting to collaborate, that was where he and his wife came and stayed at the Cove many years ago, came to meet my dad. A guy, Mark Tormino, who I've known only through, following some of his Kickstarters and stuff. He does a lot of OSR stuff. And Dark Wizard Games, yeah. Right.
and
so he's
working actor. He
does some like
been
small
doing a
acting
lot
parts.
of auditions and getting a lot of parts.
Warriors of the Wastelands. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cosmo Joe, Andy Watkins. Cosmo Joe does Phoenix Con, and he does his the live action. He runs
RPEX.
the RPEX.
Live action role playing
That he does.
experiences.
He does at Gary Con. He's coming. And of course, I mentioned Tom Wam, and then we have Penny Williams and Skip Williams. So
Yeah.
I worked with Penny. I've known Skip was friends with Ernie and several other friends in school, and Penny I know from back in TSR days. She was one of the first. I think she was the first person who was running the RPGA stuff at TSR back in the day. Yeah, yeah. And back when everything was written by Thomas, I don't know. They made it like so that Thomas S. Roberts would answer all the mail or something. It was TSR was the initials.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So anyway, so we have quite the list of guests for such a little.
Yeah, for a small
mini
con, that is
con.
a fantastic list.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
I like I said, like to kind of go to Dan's point a bit earlier, like the small cons with all the people where you can actually sit down and talk with them, like that's the con I really want to go to, and be able to pick people's brains. Because like when I went to GaryCon, there was just so many people, and being around a lot of people is just kind of like overwhelming,
yes.
That's why I did all the panels, where there's 10 people per room, and I could just sit down there and ask questions and talk to people.
Right. Well, July 24th to 27th.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the plan. Is so a couple of things are definite. We want to keep doing it. We want to keep it really close to Gary's birthday. So if we can put it in, in that Thursday through Sunday where it coincides with, the 27th, we're definitely going to do that. And otherwise, we're going to put it, on the adjacent weekend, one side or the other, however we can make that work best. We really like, of course, this is the first time we've done this at the Culver Harbor stores, but they've been so great to work with. And so far, everything has been going so smoothly as far as the setup and dealing with them. If we stay there, it will cap us out, in a few years at 650, and that'll probably stay that way.
Yeah, we're not looking to do a 4,000 person con or, we're not. It's just we're doing it all.
If we and if we do it a couple of years and we do it in that same place, we'll have the template sort of built. We'll know how many volunteers we need and the scheduling and the parking and because it's a lot of work and and we want to keep it about that. It's this is about when it's about Gary Gygax Day. So the gamers and the thing. This is about Gary Gygax Day and where it all started, where it's official.
And the cool thing about doing it in July, now obviously you've been here in March, and it's not, it's cold, it's nasty. I mean, there might be like some sunshine or whatever, but it's still gonna be cold. July, I mean, it's unless it rains or something, it's beautiful here. It's full tourist season, but there's a lot of things to do. So even if you're traveling with family members who aren't as intrigued by the gaming side of things, or they just want to be on the periphery, there's lots of other things to do. Boat tours and tasting. And take.
Well, tell you what, I'm trying to drag my wife to the next GaryCon, and she wants to meet you and says she's a huge fan. So if you can convince her to also come in July to AgCon, I'm all in. But just 2 cons in the same year, especially if she's not coming with me, it's a little bit much of an ask. But
right, I can see that.
She was giddy as a schoolgirl whenever I told her that you also had a Great Pyrenees that was about the same size as our dog. So she's like, "Oh my god!"
And yours is a pure Great Pyrenees, so probably a beautiful white. Thor pulled the coloring of his dad more, except he has one royal paw, which is white black spot and a white belly. But other than that, he's black. But otherwise, he looks just like a Great Pyrenees. His face and
a big nose and that.
Oh yeah.
And he digs and he barks at everything.
Everywhere. Oh my god, yeah.
And we just put in plantation shutters that we had put all through the house because they look nice and have all these windows, and of course, every time UPS comes or something, he jumps up and breaks them, and we have to.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's
Familiar.
Is your Great Pyrenees a bed hog?
No, we don't. We actually have a very large master bathroom, and we just lock him in there at night. Otherwise,
That's
he
an
probably would be.
Are
It
you-
just he gets on guard mode at after dark. So like if I come into the bedroom much later than my wife goes to bed,
Yeah.
and like if he's growled at me a number of times when I've opened the door. I'm like, okay, we're not going to do that. But if he's in the bathroom, he's like, I don't have to guard anybody. He just lifts his head up, lays in
Oh.
front of the door. He's like, step over me. I'm not moving.
Oh, see, I didn't teach him right. See, I was single when I got Thor, and so he just from a puppy, I trained him for the first couple nights, and I think I stayed up with him, and then it was like, oh, puppy, and I carried him. He was a 19-pound puppy when I got him, which I thought was little, and then people were looking like, oh my God, that's a huge puppy. And I was like, he's sleeping in my bed, and he just thinks he's a lap dog. He sits on my lap.
If I get up,
sometimes I wish I had that, but yeah, he's a great dog. It's just he definitely is in guard mode when he's around the family and
I understand that.
anybody. And we didn't get him. We didn't get him as a puppy. We adopted him when he was 2, so he's a little older.
Yeah. Yep.
But,
yeah. So, well, he's you just don't get up, and if you have one that's in your bed, if Eric gets up and goes to the bathroom, and then
he'll be in this spot.
Yep,
Yeah,
he does. He loses it.
He actually will push me. He'll get in between us, and then he'll stretch and
Oh my
push
God.
to the point where I get up, and I get up because
It's like, okay, I'm done. I'm up. I'm up. That's awesome.
Yep. So okay.
So going back to gaming.
Yeah.
away from
Gaming,
dogs for a moment. So I've noticed you guys have published games for AD&D First Edition, Fifth Edition, but also for Castles and Crusades and OD&D.
Yes.
What other games have you guys played? Like more modern games, things that you've experienced at GaryCon, things like that. What are you guys into? You mentioned No Thank You Evil for the kids, but like have you played some of the games that have come out relatively recently that are kind of going back to the beginnings of really D&D, like say Shadow Dark, things like that have come out.
I have not played Shadow Dark yet, but I'd like to, and I got to.
I read the book. I got the book and read the book, and I thought it was lovely.
And I got a picture with Kelsey and
awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Well, she came by our booth. She came by our booth at GaryCon last year, and
Yeah.
And
I read the book, and I didn't get a picture. No, no.
He's on better.
We don't have time to play.
Yeah, we have not. Honestly, we haven't, and we do some board games sometimes with the kids. But right now, we've been so busy. Another bad. This was I take full fault or credit or whatever. But we were at a con last year, and we were modifying a board game that Eric had modified this board game that you'd run like just for like a fun late night thing. And I'm like, we should do our own spin on it. He had already done a spin on a regular board game. And I'm like, let's change it up and create a brand new board game. And we did. And it has been, oh my gosh, so much harder than when we just sit and collaborate on writing an RPG. Because when you're writing, you're basically writing a story and storytelling and then we can get it all written and we can send it off to we can play test it and then send it off to our printer here in the US. We're doing a board game. We kickstarted it. It's successful. But there are all these files, and Eric is, normally the graphics, and he does all the graphics and maps and stuff. But for this, he has to do all these little parts and pieces and STL files and
in the metric system. They use the metric system.
So
oh no!
Oh God!
Dragon Derby, the Sport of Wizards, and we played that a lot of times with the kids, and it's fun. It's like
I saw it at your table when we came by your booth, and you told me about it, and I actually did Kickstarter it too because I figured my kid would love it too.
Awesome, yes, and we added. I need to do an update. It's been a while. I have to update our but we decided, we had some high hopes and we were going to if it really takes off, we're going to add all this stuff. And then it did well. It went way beyond our basic funding goal, but we was like, we still want to add all these extras, so we decided, we'll just throw it in. We're just going to do it anyway. You're going to get them anyway. So, so even though we didn't hit all those stretch goals, the only stretch goal that I would have loved to hit that we couldn't put in was like real metal coins. They're going to have to be the punch card coins, but which is still, but we're going to have a 2-sided board. We have, and now it's up to 10 player, 2 to 10 player game. We've, added in quite a bit of fun little things.
The number of cards is almost doubled from what we originally promised.
Instead of doing the side betting thing, we added a deck of dastardly deeds. So we've developed quite a few things. So it's really fun, and we've added like a mechanism where you can run more than, if you choose to run the game longer than one lap around. We're doing lap cards, so if you want it to last longer than 45 minutes to an hour. And the flip side, which we made the Lake Geneva edition, so that it has,
you run the race in a truncated version of Lake Geneva,
right? Which would probably be more like a 30-minute game. So we made so that you can do a couple laps, so it's not so
It's really cool.
Yeah, so a lot of really fun things. So we're excited about that. But it's a board game, but it's got a lot of fun. We've had great reviews. But after we do this, we love it. It's wonderful. I think it's awesome. But we're definitely going back to writing our modules.
Are you guys, once you guys delivered the Kickstarter, are you guys going to sell the board game on your website as well?
Yes, we'll have it at all the cons that we go to and on our website. Yes.
Cool.
Awesome.
And of course, just for fun, all of this happened, and we kickstarted and going, and then there's all the fun things happening with tariffs, and nobody in the U.S. can produce a game just like this. So, but we found our way around because we were looking and we're like, oh my God, we're gonna lose our butts,
Yeah.
But we found a way around. I mean, so it's a labor of love, but we're still getting it done.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I saw a number of Kickstarter board games just had to cancel or refund everything because of just the craziness. So I am very glad. And that was actually a concern. And one of my questions I had for you was about whether or not you're able to, keep that going. So I'm very glad to hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an investment, 401ks and all that,
Our goal is actually the last of the production files should be the manufacturing, their headquarters is located in China. They may or may not print it in China depending on what tariffs are doing at the time when they actually go to ship.
Yeah, they have another option with a lower tariff that they can ship from, which is higher freight, but will save us.
But so we're sending my goal really is Tuesday or Wednesday, the last of the production files will go, and
we'll start getting our digital samples
but we don't have to touch it. We can just walk away from it for a while they figure everything out and they ship off their samples to us, and then we can work on other things.
We're still on target for October delivery. I figure, I wanted to say September, but I said October just in case. It looks like October now, but I absolutely want everybody to have it in their hands by, early November at the latest, because Christmas, we've never been late. We've always delivered on time or early with everything we've done because we're usually done. But this is a new thing, and I still think we can make October if we just
Yeah. And I will say that I think people just in general understand that sometimes Kickstarters take a while. And as long as they don't take years of extra time, people are okay.
Never.
No waiting on Kickstarters years later. Many years later.
We want everybody ordered it thinking for Christmas that they have it way early enough that they can do it for Christmas.
Yeah, I don't want people, and I know people feel that way, and I know there's even been, people close to me that haven't delivered, and that was a reputation. So when I got into the Kickstarter thing, I mean, we have always delivered. This is this 6-month period is like the longest we've ever gone. We've been delivering in 4 months for most of our things
Yeah,
that
I
we've
mean,
been.
considering how you
Yeah,
guys only really started publishing in 2023, like
yeah,
you guys have a lot of stuff actually already written, which is awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, do you find Kickstarter or like crowdfunding programs is making things easier for you, or is it just the way things are nowadays?
it has. I wasn't really. It's funny because I backed things back from the early days just because I knew some people who were doing it, but then I was not good with the follow up, and I would wonder like, wow, whatever happened with that? I never got the thing I kickstarted. Well, I would send it to an email that I would almost never check, and then you have to follow up and do those things and tell them where you are to get them, and it's like, oh. So yeah, now that I'm a creator doing these, you know, uh, yeah, I think it's been very helpful because, first of all, you can gauge the interest in your project.
Yeah.
You get the word out there, and of course, everybody says, "Well, you have the name Gygax," but you still, if you put that out there and you put out something that's no good, that's a one-off. It's a one-shot, and I feel like what we've put together, Eric and I collaborate, and it's been fun.
Mhm.
And fun things and people enjoy. So it's been very helpful. So instead of just creating, like if we have 200 people back, we don't print 200 copies, we print 1,000 copies, and then we continue to sell them and do
Right.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
which I think is what the whole idea of Kickstarter originally was intended,
right.
is to
It
help
funds a tool.
you get your project started. And I think that's kind of changed a little bit. A lot of people go after is, that all they're going to do is the Kickstarter, that, it's
Mhm.
going to be that you're going to deliver as one big massive, which is cool.
Yeah.
And I would love to have something go like that, but it's worked really well for us. I mean, there's a lot extra to do. And it's not free. But the fees they take are not unreasonable.
No, but the things that people do have to keep in mind is, there's the cost. All of them that we've done previously, I think before we included shipping just because we didn't want to have to deal with the
Right.
shipping costs. So if you were within the 50 United States, this is the price and we'll ship it to you and it's included. But we really can't do that with the board game.
Yeah.
So, but
That's a little
anyway.
bit of a different beast.
Yeah, but it's been really good, and it has really encouraged us to keep going. And yes, getting slowed down. I would say we have 4 or 5 things that are partially written and that we haven't gotten to finishing. And so once we get, well, besides doing our own con, just going to other conventions. I mean, it doesn't seem like it'd be a big deal, but all this traveling stuff. But
It takes a lot out of you.
Mhm.
I'm not 25 anymore, so yeah. But yes, I definitely have the urge to get back to the writing and the creating and getting more things in print and that we can get out there to everybody.
That's awesome.
Yeah. As
Well,
does Eric.
make sure you guys make time for yourselves to actually play some games at your own con and at Gary Con because I mean, like, there's a lot of great writers out there and a lot of great game systems, and some of the stuff that you guys write, would probably work very well in some of these other game systems with very little change. So, like, if you could say, because Shadow Dark's becoming very very popular, and I feel like some of the modules you guys have already written could easily be adapted to those with not much change to it.
I may or may not be doing that. No comment.
I see.
If you are doing it, I'd love to see it or to know or hear.
That would be great to hear about. It wouldn't be, anything offensive whatsoever. Yeah, that would be great. Just right now, since we're so hands-on with everything.
Yeah, I know. I get it. But
I
yeah,
was gonna say what we're doing at the con too. Another thing that we're doing is we've started, and we do an auction, and the auction that we do at EdCon is for a scholarship the Gary Gygax Memorial Scholarship, and we started it with our little tiny con last year, and we actually raised $2,000, and then we added to it between sponsors and then just people donating things that we auctioned off, and we used that. We had at Badger High School, which is the local Lake Geneva High School, we had students that were interested in possibly pursuing a career in writing, science fiction, or fantasy. Possible creators submit a short story to us, and we actually did a $2,000 scholarship, and then we did 3 sort of honorable mention scholarships for just $100 each. Then we presented those in May here locally, so that's really cool. And so we're repeating that again. We're doing the auction again, and
We're on track to raise more money this year.
Yes, yeah. So we're
That's
excited.
awesome.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, and the stories were generally quite good, and there was imagination. And of course, some of them were D&D players, and so some of them will be at EdCon.
Yeah, at least 2 of the kids. The girl that was, the girl actually that was a young woman, young student named Mia, who won the $2,000 scholarship, and she is coming to EdCon as is one of the runners up, and they actually play in the same group. He DMs and her, her in the group.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And we think
Much different world for these kids than it was for us growing up.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yep. So, but yeah, we're excited. I mean, we're excited about what we're creating, and with the con and with all the other things that we're writing, and Dragon Derby is fun. But like I said, we want to get back. We have all these great ideas. I even have a cookbook that I started like 2 years ago, and I was really moving forward on it, and with family recipes and family stories and different things, and I haven't done anything on it in a good year.
it's all still there.
It's all still there,
And
and
when
eventually
you-
I'd like to get that. It's not like one of the other ones. There's some really cool cookbooks, and I've gotten copies of them, and they're very pretty, and everything's named, fun names and stuff. This was just more like about family, some of the family recipes and some of the other things and some stories around them, and just things would be fun because I do enjoy cooking and eating. And
She's an amazing cook. I had no idea. Oh no!
She's gonna love you even more now that she knows that. So
Mhm.
she also loves to cook. So
yeah.
All right.
So
So
we've actually gotten close to the hour mark.
we're over an hour.
Oh, okay. We don't want to keep it too much longer, but we
Can we
want to
tell
get
you
that grumpy story from you.
You
yeah.
have a grumpy story. Do you have a grumpy story?
I couldn't think of one except I was thinking of the one from Dragon Days last year. The kid that we had to kill.
Had to kill him off. Yeah.
I like where this is going already.
He did. Well, he was obnoxious, and I think he was showing off a little bit. He was being a little boisterous and distracting, and
Yeah, he came in and joined a little bit late, and we were in the middle of
which was rude. That's just rude.
Well, and it's a little. It was tiny con the first Dragon Days. So we were like, was that Dragon Days or was that the library one? But anyway, the kid came over. I would say he was probably 17-ish. And we had a serious group of, a small group. I think there were like 4 other players, and they were going through and checking for traps and doing everything. And they were coming across these statues, and they're made of, different stones. And they're doing checking. He's like, I go over and I, take out my, python and I chop into it, or he's doing all these things, and I push it, and I do this and that, and
I fire a magic missile at the button.
right. So kept doing it, and we're like, that's probably not a good idea with these. But finally, we just had to.
Yeah.
We had to roll some dice
chiseling.
behind the screen, and
We didn't even look at him. It was like reading tea leaves. And he was like, because Heidi said, "Can we just kill him?"
yeah, I was right. I'm like, just get rid of him. He's driving me nuts.
Just get rid of him.
He's at the base of this giant statue, and it's like, We need you to roll, and he rolled. I don't even know what he got, but
Yeah, we weren't even paying attention.
it
but
crushed
it
you.
pulled over
It crushed you, and you're dead. And he's like, "Well, do you have another character?" I'm like, "No, we're fresh out." So that was
So sorry. Flat out.
and then the group continued, and everybody had fun.
and then they were having fun. But then when he came there, it's just like, oh.
Yeah.
This just reinforces what we said at the very beginning of the podcast: is that players kill players. They kill
Right.
themselves. So.
Right.
Yeah.
That's usually true.
Yeah.
But
Everything's
occasionally,
great there. No, he did. He killed himself. He had a choice. He could have shaped up, but he had to ship out.
Yep.
my personal experience has been generally very positive. I mean, started playing D&D a long time ago, and got my little Christmas gray box set and played it wrong.
When you were,
I would have been 9 or 10,
Yeah.
but it just right away got into an AD&D group, like right after Christmas, but generally, and I missed up. I didn't, the whole Satanic Panic thing just missed me. I went to progressive schools, and we had D&D clubs, and
you had
and then-
moved away from the South at that point.
yeah, and but the truth is all of my D&D experiences have been generally very positive. I made friends and played in the Army and played overseas and played in college, and my son sort of reacquainted myself with my son when he was a teenager, and he knew everything. He didn't want to have, and he showed up with these books and these dice, and he said, "Look at this cool thing I found." And so well, I don't really have by myself a grumpy story. Dungeons and Dragons has been, really. I have my wife and my daughters because of Dungeons and Dragons. I guess if I had to, my negative would be that when I was younger and I was to the point where I had time and I had money, I thought I should go meet Gary Gygax, and I never did it. And but generally, I don't have a. I helped kill a player, but the truth is, it's generally, it's really, I lose sleep at night. It's terrible, but generally it's been very positive. Oh, you got one?
I was just thinking of a grumpy story. It would have been in the early days of gaming at our house on 330 Center Street, when my dad would have all the gamers over, and like the very first, and probably a couple after, but the very first gathering of gamers that he got for this weekend, they were at our house, and everybody just bought sleeping bags, and my mom had a little baby. she was the grumpy.
Right.
Yeah.
She wasn't the DM though, but she came.
Yes, she was.
But everybody, no, but yeah, she didn't like. So she was grumpy because all the gamers would be up and playing late at night and making noise and keeping babies up. But but that's a different story. But that's
It counts. It counts.
Oh yeah, it still counts. Yeah.
yeah.
Actually, that kind of like triggers a memory from what I had. I remember in my father's house, he would play games with his friends in the kitchen, and the kitchen was attached to the laundry room, and my room was right above the laundry room, and there was like an old school vent, so like I could hear all the games going on. And there was a game we used to play that I actually got a chance to play called Dark Tower. And I would hear it go off and be like, I want to play that game so bad. But no, I had to go to bed, and the adults were playing games instead. And I always just sat there like, man, I want to be playing games.
That's hilarious.
Yep.
But we really do appreciate your guys' time and just chatting with us. I really wish I could make EdCon this year, because like I want to go to a smaller con, and there's not really many cons here in Charleston. But I got a budget. It blew all my budget for GaryCon. I'm still recovering. But it's on my list for next year. I will never financially. I got $50,000 of credit card debt. No. No. But yeah, it's definitely. If I were to pick a con to go to next, it's definitely going to be EdCon. 'Cause I want that smaller convention. I want that more personal feel to it, and I'm very glad you guys are running that, and I hope it's very successful this year for you all. And you keep doing it for many, many, many more years. And I love the work you guys have put out there. Where can someone go out and actually buy your publications right now?
Well, www.gaxland.com. We have everything in the web store.
GAX, like Gygax, and LAND, like Garland. So Gaxland.com.
So
that's a great combo. Aw.
how cleverly I did that. I only had to change one letter.
Yeah, he only went to Garland. He went to Gaxland, but yeah. So we just didn't think,
Gygar wasn't a good one, and
I mean, that sounds like an NPC that you're gonna.
Yeah, that's a barbarian for sure.
right?
Yeah, Gygar the Barbarian's definitely
Tomb
going to
of
come out at some point.
So Gaxland, yes. So Gaxland.com. And that reminds me, we got to update our prices because things are too cheap on there still with all the prices.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, crap, I got to go buy a bunch of crap right now.
So buy now.
Yeah, no, the dice, we have our dice ridiculously cheap because all the prices have gone crazy. Yeah,
Yep.
so.
All right, so this podcast won't go up until Tuesday morning, so you have until then to change it.
Okay.
Well, we know right now.
I know right now.
Yeah, we know though.
But actually, I used your I got a set of dice from you, I believe, that had Gaxland on it, and I was using
black
them.
Dice or the multicolored?
I think they're the black one.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, and I was using that for Adventures League. I killed a player if it makes you feel better.
Oh, there you go. Awesome.
Always good to hear.
Yeah.
Now, did the player kill themselves, or did you actually kill them?
I haven't actually talked about that. I'll actually save the big story about that for next week. But I let's just say giant plus small people equal face and lava, and it was great.
Check out I don't know if you follow anything in Hawaii, but Kilauea on the Big Island is going off. They had more than 1,000 feet in the air with the lava flow.
Oh wow!
I heard about that actually. Yeah.
Oh my!
So facing the lava.
Some inspiring
Yes.
video, phenomenal,
right.
powerful stuff. Yeah.
Great talking to you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for joining us.
See you at GaryCon next year.
We will see you there.
Yes, we will see you there, and we will make sure we run Hamlet of Omelet.
Yeah, I'm looking for that omelet.
No, really.
Thank you so much, very much. Thank you.
All right, take care. Bye, guys.
Bye.